Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are doing a new beginning of covering weekly current affairs. So today we'll be covering current affairs, weekly current affairs from the first week of March. All right. So we are starting it with the first week of March. And I'll be covering all the relevant topics which are important for our examination perspective so that you don't need to go anywhere else to do at least these topics. You can completely rely on whatever I'm going to teach you today. And I'll try my best to comprehensively cover each and everything. So let's just get into it. The first topic of the week is, the first topic belongs to polity, which is GS paper 2, and it is a very, very important topic. I'm putting a star here because it's a very important topic. UPSC has asked questions on this and it might ask in future as well. So you must pay attention here. The first is anti-defection law. Okay. So how are we going to cover these things? We are going to distinguish the entire topic or the entire lecture into three parts, wherein first we'll be understanding the contextual part of it. We'll understand why are we reading it, why exactly it was in news, and why is it important for our examination. Second, we'll be understanding the entire issue pertaining to the particular topic, and at the last we will also touch upon the static portion of it. That is, we will be understanding what anti-defection law is. So if to summarize, we will be connecting the static part with the current affairs part, which is definitely a very important technique जो आपको आनी चाहिए while you are preparing any topic for your exam. So first thing first, context. What is the context and why are we reading it? So recently what had happened on 25th of February, there was a judgment which was given by Bombay High Court, and the judgment was regarding the defection of some Goa MLAs. So what had happened? What is the entire situation? What is the entire scenario? There were certain MLAs, they joined some other party, or they joined BJP. They defected from Congress and they joined BJP. But what High Court gave the judgment, High Court said that they will not be disqualified under the 10th schedule, or they will not be disqualified under anti-defection law. And why the High Court has given this judgment, this we will be understanding in today's topic. Though they have joined the other party, but still they does not come under the anti-defection law. So this is precisely we are going to understand that what is that exception कि उन्होंने वो disqualify नहीं हुए. We'll be understanding that exception. So this is exactly the issue, that MLA got exempted from the disqualification under what? Under para 4 clause 2 of the 10th schedule of the constitution. We'll be understanding what 10th schedule is all about and what is this exceptional clause, which is clause 4, para 4 clause 2. All right. So yeah. So we know that we have a long history of defections in our country, and if you remember, there was this what happened in 1985. Okay, just a second. As I've told you that we have a long history of defections, and in order to curb or to restrict those defections, a government decided to come up with some laws. And finally, they came up with this law called Anti-Defection Law, which came by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act in the year 1985. There's a big example, or there's a very famous slogan which came up in 1967, which is famously known as Aya Ram Gaya Ram. And what happened during this? Actually, there was a MLA which belonged to Haryana, and he changed his loyalties to 3 parties in a single day, and that was the reason that this slogan came. That is Aya Ram Gaya Ram. Unka naam bhi shayad Gaya Ram tha, so this slogan came, Aya Ram Gaya Ram, in 1967. So basically, in order to curb all these activities, these defections, our government came up with this amendment or this law through 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1985. Now we must understand what are some of the provisions. The provisions, okay, the provisions of anti-defection law which comes under the 10th schedule of our Indian Constitution. We know there are 12 schedules, and 10th schedule may we deal with the anti-defection law. I'll be covering certain important provisions today in today's lecture. The first is that if any member voluntarily gives up the membership of a particular party, he will be disqualified. So this is the first provision, that if any member voluntarily gives up, अगर वो खुद ही अपनी पार्टी से जिस पार्टी में वो है, अगर वो voluntarily if he gives up that membership, he will be disqualified. Under what? Under anti-defection law, right? The second provision says that if any member abstain or does not vote as directed by the whip of the party, that person would again be considered as disqualified under anti-defection law. So if he abstain, if he does not vote, or if suppose the party is asking him to vote for a particular on a particular ground, or if he does not vote at all against the direction of the whip, ठीक है, party whip के against if he votes or if he abstain to vote, he will be disqualified under anti-defection law. These are the two major provisions. Then let me talk about the third and the very important provision जिसके बारे में हमारा आज का टॉपिक भी रिलेटेड है, which is an exceptional clause, which is an exception जिसको यूज करके अभी जो गोवा के MLAs हैं उनको भी डिस्क्वालीफाई नहीं किया गया. Now this is very important for us to understand this exceptional clause. So what is this exception? The exception says if 2/3 of the members of a party, ठीक है, merges with some other party. So if 2/3 members merges with the other party, it will not be considered as disqualification under what? Anti-defection law. And this is precisely what we are talking about in today's topic. This is the exceptional clause or the exception we are talking about. So that is why the High Court gave this judgment that these MLAs would not be disqualified under anti-defection law because there were around 10 out of 15 members who joined the other party, who joined BJP, which fulfills the criteria of what? 2/3 of the majority of, or the 2/3 of the members, which fulfill the criteria of this exceptional clause, which is 2/3 of the members should merge with the other party. So that is why High Court gave this decision that they will not be disqualified. I hope we are clear on this now, right? I hope we've understood what anti-defection law is, what are it's some of the provision. ये आया क्यों था? Because we have a long history of defection, so we had to definitely come up with something. That is why we came up with this amendment, and we've also understood what are the provisions of it, and we've also understood about the 10th schedule and the exceptional clause, or why they were exempted from the disqualification under this act. All right, moving ahead. Okay, so moving ahead with the next topic. The next topic says Supreme Court's landmark judgment on death penalty. Now, what is this topic about? Again, I'll be covering the entire topic into some subparts. The first would be the context, wherein we'll be understanding as why are we reading this topic, why is it important for our exam. Second, what are some of the famous judgments which are related to this judgment which Supreme Court just gave, because these judgments, especially the famous judgments in polity, are really important for us to learn, because we can quote them in our mains examination. So mains के लिए काफी important हो जाती है. Also they're important for prelims also. You never know, they can ask you the direct judgments and they can give you the options. So you must prepare the judgments also, especially the famous judgments. You don't need to remember all the judgments, but definitely if some judgment or something is in news, right, you must prepare it. Okay, so the context is the Supreme Court has recently said that the judges must consider the psychological or the psychology of the criminal also, while they are delivering or while they are analyzing or evaluating the entire conclusion while giving the capital punishment to the criminal. So this is the context कि recently abhi Supreme Court ने बोला है that judges cannot just analyze or evaluate or consider the victim's point of view only. They must consider the criminal side also. जिसने crime commit किया है उसका side भी the judges must see, and then only they should conclude upon the capital punishment, right? Okay, we know that I'm talking about this data as of December. This is a data which says as of December 2021, there are 488 prisoners which are in death row, and this number is 21% higher than the previous year, than 2020. So in order to curb this, or in order to structure this, in order to prevent this, the Supreme Court gave this judgment, and this is not the first time the Supreme Court has given such kind of judgments. Even in earlier cases or the judgments, Supreme Court had given similar kind of judgments, but Supreme Court repeated this, right? And they forced more upon keeping in mind or considering the psychology of the criminal as well, right? So what are those judgments, and what exactly we need to consider is, so there was a famous judgment called Bachan Singh versus State of Punjab, 1980. What happened in this judgment? So इस judgment में the advocate of the Bachan Singh, this case was Bachan Singh versus State of Punjab, and the advocate of Bachan Singh, he said that the sentencing which is given under Article 354 Clause 3 of CRPC is unconstitutional because it gives discretionary or the unlimited power to the judges. And judges are misusing this power, so this should be prevented, this should be curbed, steps must be taken to it, and that is why this judgment came, called Bachan Singh, जिनके advocate ने ये file किया था, that judges are misusing their power and they should be highly sensitive towards this topic, and hence this Bachan Singh judgment came, which made it mandatory. What was the judgment? The judgment made it mandatory that you cannot give capital punishment or the death punishment to anybody. You have to keep in mind the entire scenario, or you have to consider the psychology of the criminal as well, and then only you have to decide whether whether the judges have to give the capital punishment or not. So what are those things जो कि judges को consider करनी होती है? The first could be the criminal could be juvenile. So the judges must keep in mind कि criminal जो है वो juvenile है या नहीं. Accordingly, the judges should give the punishment. The second thing could be the psychology, as I've told you, right? The third could be the circumstances. Circumstances in which the crime is committed, judges must consider this as well. Third is the motive. Judges must consider the motive. And fourth would be the aggravated, or yeah, the form of the crime. The form could be, you can say that aggravated factors आपको देखने होते हैं कि कितना heinous crime उसने किया है, and accordingly, keeping in mind all these things, a judge must pass his judgment, and not just like that. Okay? So this was the entire scenario. Let's come to the our slide again. So this Bachan Singh, this judgment also gave a very famous doctrine which we call as rarest of rare doctrine. And as the name indicates, this doctrine says that you can only give the capital punishment in rarest of rare cases, keeping in mind or analyzing every bit of the crime, right? For example, कि you cannot give death punishment to every murder committed. ठीक है, आपको उसका heinous nature, उसके circumstances, whether the criminal is was juvenile or not, the circumstances of the criminal, you have to see, you have to analyze everything before concluding to the capital punishment. So rarest of rare judgments exactly means this, that you can only give the capital punishment in the rarest of rare cases and not otherwise, right? Second, it also gave emphasis that aggravating or mitigating factors पे भी हमें emphasize, I mean judges को emphasize करना चाहिए before they conclude to something, before they conclude to the judgment. I hope it is clear to you. Let me summarize this entire topic. Recently, Supreme Court has gave this judgment on death penalty, which says that the psychological evaluation should be done before coming to the conclusion of giving death penalty to the criminal, right? Because a lot of people are there in the death row. I have just told you this figure, which has increased to this fact, which has increased to 21%. And I've also told you that what are those factors which should be considered before giving a punishment to the criminal. And we have also discussed about this very famous case, which you can quote in your mains examination whenever a question is asked about the death penalty. Bachan Singh ka aap hamesha naam likh sakte hain in your mains examination, and the rarest of rare doctrine. All right, moving ahead with our next topic, it says a proposal to amend Article 80. Okay. Similarly, we'll read this topic on the same lines. First, we'll understand what is the context of this, as to why are we reading it and why is it important for our examination. Second, we'll be understanding the definition of Article 80 and what fourth schedule is all about. Remember, all the 12 schedules are very, very important. You have to do them by heart. आपको याद करने पड़ेंगे 12 के 12 schedules. Then third, we will be dealing with the challenges. What are the challenges to amend this article, or why cannot we amend this article? There are certain challenges related to it. We'll be covering them in detail. Okay, so first thing first, what is the context? Recently, what had happened? Chandigarh Municipal Corporation has approved a proposal to amend Article 80. कि Article 80 को आप amend कर सकते हो. Okay, but what is Article 80? Article 80 है क्या? Let me give you a detailed idea about that as well. What is Article 80 and what is Article and how is it related with our Schedule 4? Let's just read it. Article 80. Article 80 basically talks about the composition of Council of States. Or the Rajya Sabha. We know Council of States is the Rajya Sabha. Okay, this should be C here. Yeah. So Article 80 talks about the composition of the Council of States or the Rajya Sabha. We know that how we all must have read this in polity, that how members are elected in Rajya Sabha. They're indirectly elected by the people. We know this. They're indirectly elected by the people. Okay? And through what? Through proportional representation system. Proportional representation system with single transferable vote. ठीक है, I'm writing all of this in shorthand. I'm sure ये it's very easy for all of you to understand. अगर किसी ने एक बार भी लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ी होगी, you know what STV and what proportional representation is, right? So members of the Rajya Sabha are indirectly elected through what? Proportional representation. ठीक है, having this single transferable vote. Okay. So, but what is the recent context? तो अभी यही हुआ है कि जो काउंसलर्स हैं, जो चंडीगढ़ म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन के जो काउंसलर्स हैं, वी ऑल्सो कॉल देम पार्षद, they are, they want to send their representatives to the Rajya Sabha, but this cannot happen, and we will understand why that cannot happen, and this is precisely the challenge here, कि ये amendment क्यों नहीं हो सकता, and why they cannot send the representative to the Rajya Sabha. ठीक है, but before that, let's see what is this fourth schedule is all about. Fourth schedule actually also talks about allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha. So it is also related with the Rajya Sabha, allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha. Article 80, wherein it also says composition of Council of States or the Rajya Sabha only. ठीक है? But what are the challenges? Why this amendment is not possible? I have told you that they want to send the representatives to the Rajya Sabha, the councillors, Chandigarh के जो भी councillors हैं, जो पार्षद हैं, but ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, because we know that the elected municipal councillors do not form the electoral. This is the word which must be understood or which must be underlined here, that they do not form the part of electoral college. Okay, for selecting the members of the Rajya Sabha, and that is why they are not allowed, or it is not feasible for them to do this, right? And why it is not feasible, why they do not form the part of the electoral college? Because they function as a civic body. हमें पता है जो भी आपके एरियाज में जो पार्षद होते होंगे, they function as a civic body. So it will be unconstitutional for them to do this, and it will be unconstitutional if this thing will happen, right? And this is exactly the biggest challenge in amending this article. I hope this is clear to you. Let me summarize this for you. We've understood the context that that councillors are trying to send the representative to the Rajya Sabha. Okay? We've understood what Article 80 is, which is the composition, which talks about the composition, and also we've also read about Schedule 4th, which again talks about the allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha. We've also read about the challenges as to why it cannot happen, why this amendment cannot happen, and we've understood कि क्योंकि they are not the part of the electoral college, that is why they cannot do this. वो एक civic body, एक civic capacity में काम करते हैं. They are not a part of this. Hence, it will be unconstitutional if this happens, right? So this was all about it. Moving ahead with the next topic. The next topic is government has no right to enact law for 3 capitals. Here, first of all, let me make you clear that when I'm saying government, I mean state government. Okay? Do not get confused. Get confused with the center government. It is the state government when I'm saying this. Okay. Again, on the same lines, we'll be understanding the context. ठीक है, and then the origin context हमें पढ़ना है, that why what the topic is all about. This topic again is very important for our exam, both from the current aspect as well as from the static aspect. I'll tell you in a while as to how, but what is the context here? ये जो मुद्दा है बहुत टाइम से चल रहा है, this Andhra Pradesh and the 3 capital issue. We call it 3 capital. This is famously called as 3 capital issue. So what is the 3 capital issue? So Andhra Pradesh High Court ने अभी recently order किया है that अमरावती को ही हम capital बना के रखते हैं, and they have ruled that the government or the state government, here when I'm saying government, like I've told you, it is the state government. The state government has no right to enact the fresh legislation for the 3 capitals. It should be Amravati only, right? The only capital should be the Amravati, which is the legislative capital. सिर्फ यही होना चाहिए. I mean, all the capital, not the legislative capital. The High Court is saying that that should only be the capital. But we'll understand this topic, what was the origin, and we'll understand everything about it. right? So what was the origin of it? जुलाई 2021 को स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने यही नोटिफाई किया था that आंध्र प्रदेश डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन एंड इंक्लूसिव डेवलपमेंट ऑफ ऑल रीजन्स एक्ट 2020 एंड आंध्र प्रदेश कैपिटल रीजन डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी रिपील एक्ट 2020, they notified this act, ठीक है, the state government I'm talking about, and this act only, which I have just mentioned, this act only paved the way for the formation of these three capitals. Which act? This act only paved the way for three capitals. And what were those three capitals? Come with me towards the map. The first capital would be Vishakhapatnam, which would be the executive capital. The second would be the Amravati, the legislative capital, and the third one would be the Kurnool, which would be the judicial capital. So these three capitals the state government wanted to have, but High Court said that this cannot happen. Okay, now we must understand that why High Court said this. High Court ने ऐसा क्यों बोला that state government cannot do this? State government, High Court basically said that state government lack this competence to, to do this, or to bifurcate this the capitals, so for that matter to trifurcate the matter, or to shift the capitals. It says the High Court says that the state government lack competence either to shift, bifurcate, or for that matter trifurcate, because here we are talking about the three capitals only. तो trifurcate करने का भी ये state government के पास right नहीं है. State government lack competence to do any of it. But why High Court said this? High Court said this because it is written in our constitution. It is written in our constitution that only parliament, mind you, only parliament, this is really important, only parliament has the right to do this. Okay, under what? Under which article? Under article 4. Under article 4 only parliament has the right to do this. Now what is this article 4? To understand article 4 we need to understand article 2 and article 3. Article 3 of our Indian constitution and article 2 of our Indian constitution, article 2 talks about the admission or the establishment of new states. Okay? If we have to do this establishment or the admission of the new state, it will happen under article 2 of our constitution. Then what is article 3 talks about? Article 3 talks about the formation of the new states, or it talks about formation of new states, or altering what? Altering the names or the area or the boundaries of the, mind you, this is also an important word, of the existing state. Of the existing state. Let me repeat both the articles for you. Article 2 talks about admission or the establishment of the new states, whereas Article 3 talks about the formation of the new states or altering the names or the area or the boundaries of the existing state. ठीक है, 2 और 3 समझ आ गया. Now what is Article 4? Article 4 ये कहता है कि Article 2 and Article 3, while we are doing any of it which comes under Article 2 or Article 3, would not be covered under or would not be considered as, will not, this not is very important here, will not be considered as amendment under Article कौन से आर्टिकल में अमेंडमेंट होता है? 368. So any of it, whatever we are doing pertaining to Article 2 and 3 would not be considered an amendment under Article 368. This is Article number 4. ठीक है, कि इनको हम अमेंडमेंट कंसिडर नहीं करेंगे, इसी को कहते हैं हम आर्टिकल नंबर 4. And to understand Article 4, it was very important for us to understand Article number 2 and 3. I hope this is clear to you now. Let me repeat the entire topic. The entire topic was the High Court gave this, you can say High Court said this, that the state government lacked the competence. State government lacked the competence to do what? To shift or to bifurcate or to trifurcate the capitals. It cannot do this because only Parliament has this right under Article 4. To understand Article 4, we have understood first Article 2, 3, and then we jump to Article 4, which is related to the amendment under Article 368. I hope it is clear to you now, right? Moving ahead with our next topic. 8th schedule. 8th schedule of our Indian Constitution. Okay, I'm sure आप connect कर पा रहे होंगे that I'm taking the static part as well as the current part together, and you also have to keep the same approach while you are preparing any topic. You have to read the current aspects. First, you have to prepare the static part of it. Then only you will be understanding the current aspect of it. So, but you must take both the aspects together. Then only you can consider that entire topic to, you know, कि आपका वो पूरी तरीके से prepare हो चुका है. You cannot just prepare just one part. करंट तो आपको खैर समझ ही नहीं आएगा if you don't prepare your static part properly. So you must go prepare your static part properly. Static portion आप prepare करें and then you try and connecting it with the current part. Okay, 8th schedule. Again, context will understand, and what is 8th schedule will understand. What is the context? नीतीश कुमार जो कि बिहार के चीफ मिनिस्टर हैं, उन्होंने रिसेंटली हैज सेड दैट दे वुड बी रिवाइविंग द लॉन्ग पेंडिंग डिमांड ऑफ इंक्लूजन ऑफ भोजपुरी इन द 8th शेड्यूल. उन्होंने ये बोला है कि हम भोजपुरी को 8th शेड्यूल में इंक्लूड करना चाहते हैं. हम सारे लैंग्वेजेस को 22 से 23 बनाना चाहते हैं. वी वांट टू इंक्लूड दिस भोजपुरी आल्सो इन द 8th शेड्यूल. नाउ विल द मेजर क्वेश्चन अराइजेस हियर इज व्हाट इज 8th शेड्यूल, व्हाट इज इट ऑल डील्स विथ. सो 8th schedule basically deals with, first of all, it comes under part. This is also important for all of you to at least memorize the parts. ठीक है, अगर आपको सारे articles भी याद नहीं होते हैं, you must memorize the parts. This comes under part 17 of our Indian Constitution from Article 343 to 351. ठीक है, which deals with what? Deals with the official language. Official languages. I hope 8th schedule clear हो गया होगा. Comes under part 17th from Article 343 to 351, and it deals with the official language. Now, how many official languages are there? There are 22 official languages, and there is a demand of including Bhojpuri also in the 8th schedule in the list of official language. What are those official languages? आप ये भी याद कर ले तो बहुत अच्छा होगा, because you never know, prelims can ask you this question directly from the languages only, as to which one of the following is under official language. तो आप you have to remember, you have to memorize this list also. Okay, Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkan, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Bodo, Santhali, Maithili, Dogri. These are the 22 languages which are presently in the 8th schedule of our constitution. Now, there's something I'd like to tell you here. While I was doing my preparation, let me tell you the trick how I used to remember all the schedules of our Indian constitution. I'm sure it is going to help you a lot. All the 12 schedules you have to memorize. This is for sure. But it's not easy to memorize so many things. So let me help you with this. So there's a trick I have through which I used to prepare my things. The trick is 1 stands for sun, 2 stands for shoe, 3 is tree, 4 is score, 5 is hive, 6 is stick, 7 is heaven, 8 is gate, 9 is line, 10 is hen. So this is my counting. I'll repeat. 1 is sun, 2 is shoe, 3 is tree, 4 is score, 5 is hive, 6 is stick, 7 is heaven, 8 is gate, 9 is line, and 10 is hen. Okay. So this is the trick. If there are 10 points, suppose, in anything, in any, if you have to memorize the 10 points, you can definitely apply this trick. You can make your own story. I have my own story with the sun, I have my own story with the shoe, I have my own story with the tree, with the score, with the stick, heaven. I have my own story. Similarly, you can make your own stories in your mind and you can memorize those points. कहीं भी आपको 10 points याद करने हैं, just write it down. I am sure this is going to make your life easier. ठीक है? Okay. Moving ahead with our next topic. It is Data Protection Bill. Again, a very important topic. बहुत news में रहता है. So, we must do it. Data Protection Bill, exactly on the same lines, we'll be covering it. We'll be understanding what is the context and what is it about. We'll also understand the recommendation of the recent bill. Recent bill ke kya recommendations aaye hain. We know that we use a lot of internet these days, and a lot of websites are there which stores our data. जो भी हम browsing history का जो भी हमारा data होता है, browsing patterns or browsing history, they store that data and they show that their personalized advertisements then, right, based upon that data, or based upon our history or our browsing patterns. ठीक है? And it is basically it's their business. They are kind of stealing it only. So to curb or to make those companies accountable, a government came up with this very impactful bill in 2019. This particular bill is the extension of that 2019 wala bill only. So our government came up with this bill called Data Protection Bill in 2019 so that they can make those companies accountable, those who are doing such type of things. So what is the exact context? 2021 May, the Joint Committee on Personal Data Protection Bill, they had tabled its report in both the Houses of the Parliament, giving its views on various provisions, and the government has said that it is studying the inputs which they have received from this committee. Now, what is important for us to understand is what are the recommendations given by this committee. Okay, let us directly jump to the recommendations. The first recommendation was non-personal data included. So initially, when we tabled it in 2019, we only included the personal data, which is that the personal data should not be stealed, or there are certain provisions regarding the personal data only, which is our name. The personal data could be our name, could be our address. Those are the personal data. But now that non-personal data has also been included. Non-personal data is those set of datas जहाँ से एक person का identification directly नहीं हो सकता. That is non-personal data. So this non-personal data has also been included in this bill just to widen the scope of this bill, right? Second is data not to be shared with the foreign government. This has also been included in the recent bill only, that any data would not be shared with any government, any foreign government or any foreign agency without center's approval. Until and unless a central government gives the approval, अगर हमारी गवर्नमेंट अप्रूव कर देती है that it can share its data with some foreign agency, then it is fine, else it is punishable. All right. Third would be office of a parent company should be in India. So office of a parent company matlab, like for example, Google को कि parent company is Alphabet. We know this. So Alphabet का जो office है should be in India. Then only we can share our data with them. Unless we, until we cannot do that. If their office, the office of their of parent company is not in India, we cannot share our data. Third would be separate regulatory body. We need to make a separate regulatory body so that the regulation could be done at a better level, at a better scale. Fifth would be punishment would be there if there is a breach of this bill or the provisions of this bill. There would be a punishment of 3 years and 2 lakh rupees if anybody is breaching the laws. The next, or the sixth and the last one, and the most controversial point in this bill, is center is an exception. So central government can allow any of its agencies to have any kind of personal or non-personal data on their server or with them. And this is the most controversial point in the entire bill. The opposition also opposed it very, very strongly, that you cannot allow central government to have this kind of leverage. All right. So to summarize this data protection bill, we know that to make such people or such companies accountable, we tabled this bill in 2019. Then we kept, amending it or enlarging the scope of it. And finally, the recent amendment we're talking about, what are those recommendation? Non personal data को include कर लिया गया है, इसका scope increase कर दिया गया है. The second is data not to be shared with the foreign company or any foreign agency until and unless a central government approves it. The third is office of the parent company should be in India. The fourth one is there should be a separate regulatory body. Next is if anybody breaches the law or breaches the bill, when it will be a bill, breaches the bill, it will be punishable offense. Then the next and the last one and the most debatable one is the center is an exception. The central government is an exception here. All right. Moving ahead with our next topic. Our next topic is Haryana Anti-Conversion Bill. We have seen a lot of instances where marriages happen, and then we have seen, people force their spouses to convert their religion. There are many instances जो कि आए दिन report होते रहते हैं that marriages somehow happens due to any fraud way, and then the spouse force their partners to convert their religion. And exactly this is exactly this this is exactly why we had to come up with this anti-conversion bill. Why was it in news? Because Haryana government has introduced this. That is why it was in news. What was the exact bill? It is the Haryana Prevention of Unlawful Conversion of Religious Bill 2022, which aimed at prohibiting religious conversions through what? Force, fraud or force, or by making fraud or force by making it an offense. You need to understand here one thing. If any of the partner wants to change his or her religion by his or her own will, that is fine. But if it is happening through any kind of fraud or any kind of force, that will be a punishable offense. And that's what exactly the bill talks about. It is Haryana Prevention of Unlawful Conversion of Religious things. Okay, now what is if we talk about the anti-conversion law, there is अभी तक कोई ऐसा central anti-conversion law है नहीं हमारे country में. This is something to be noted upon. And अभी तक ऐसा होता था that the burden of proof lies on the accused, and the marriages will be declared null and void if any kind of such things happens, right? And Haryana is not the only state which has passed this law. Arunachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa. There are many states who had passed this law earlier as well. So abhi ye ho gaya hai ki it has increased the scope of punishment. It has also said that if you are doing it, if any of the spouse is doing it or changing his or her religion by his or her own will, they need to submit a declaration to the government they need to submit a declaration to the government that it is not by fraud or any on any means of force, it is by my own will. We need to submit this declaration, and then only we can convert our religion. So this is also something to be noted here. I hope it is clear. Haryana anti-conversion bill, which talks about that you cannot forcefully convert the religion of any of your partners, right? मेजरली तो ये फीमेल्स के केसेस में ही देखा गया है. सो या बट आई स्टिल यूज द वर्ड पार्टनर्स, नॉट जस्ट males. Okay. So coming to our next subject, which is economy, which belongs to GS paper 3, we will try and cover all the relevant topics, all the relevant current topics from March 1st week, from economy as well. So let's start. The first topic in the economy we have is credit scheme for farmers producer organization, credit scheme and FPOs. Keeping the lecture on the same lines, we will first understand why it was in news, what is the contextual part, and then we will also understand about FPOs, that is farmer producer organization. Let us first understand कि ये news में था क्यों and why is it important, right? First of all, anything related to agriculture becomes very important for UPSC, for our examination, right? But why this was in news? Because NABARD, we know that the rural bank has launched this formation and promotion of FPO to promote the FPOs on a large scale. NABARD and a government is trying to promote the FPOs, promote the farmer producer organization. But why are we doing this? See, we know that in our country, we have almost 85% small and marginal farmers and the landless farmers also. So 85 of the farmers constitute this group of farmers, the small or the marginal farmers or the landless farmers. And they really do not have the facilities, a lot of facilities, or they do not have access to a lot of things. Like, for example, they do not have the access to technology, they do not have the access to credit facilities or the subsidies. And though our government is providing subsidies these days, but still a lot of farmers still do not have those kind of facilities. So they do not have the technology, they do not have credit facilities, they do not have the market access, right? And they also lack our agricultural sector also lack in what in we have poor supply chain. Our agriculture sector lacks this thing. We have a poor supply chain. We lack in technological advancements, or you can say we lack in the modernization or the technological advancement. And we know that our government has promised to double the farmers income by 2022. So in order to achieve the same, government definitely had to take some steps to achieve the targeted vision of doubling the farmers income by 2022. So in order to do the same, the government is trying to promote FPOs. But what is FPO? FPO hote kya hai? Farmer producer organization. Though the term only is making you a lot of things understandable here, but still we are going to look at it. As I have told you that there are 85% of the farmers which are small and landless farmers in our country, which do not have access to a lot of things, like for example technology, credit, market. ठीक है, इनकी access नहीं है. So what our government thought, the government thought to make a group of these farmers, a group of these farmers, and that group only is known as farmer producer organization, so that they can make a group, they can get access to a lot of things the government, especially the government, is providing. Okay, that this is what farmers producer organization to be in short. And where is it registered? It is registered in part 9A of Companies Act 2013 या फिर Cooperative Society Act में FPOs registered हैं. So they definitely have a legal status also to it. This could be a probable question in our prelims as to FPOs if they are registered somewhere. So yes, they are registered in part 9 of Companies Act 2030 or Cooperative Societies Act giving them a legal status, right? To summarize this topic, NABARD has launched this formation and promotion of FPOs to do what? To enhance or to promote the FPOs. FPOs hote kya hai? They are the group of farmers, right? Which earlier lacked all these things and all these facilities, but in order to make them better, in order to make our agriculture sector more efficient and more productive, a government came up with a solution called FPOs. Okay? Hence, since this is related with agriculture, becomes highly important for our examination too. All right. Next topic, again a very important, especially for our ये आए दिन news में होता है because it is a controversial, it is a debatable topic. So ये काफी बार whenever you'll read your newspaper, you'll every almost every you can say week or every month you'll read about participatory notes. But what is the present context? Why are we reading it today? Presently अभी current aspect में क्या हुआ है that we are reading it. So recently SEBI ने एक data release किया है which says that the value of participatory notes in Indian markets have declined. January 2020 में the values of the participatory notes had declined. This is also a data you can remember, though it keeps changing, but you can definitely keep analyzing these trends. UPSC can ask you, especially if any trend is given in your economic survey or the budget, you must memorize, summarize, keep those trends in your mind. They can directly ask you the trends wale question bhi, ki whether it is decreasing or increasing or is stable or what. So the trend is also important. So SEBI has said that participatory notes का जो investment है is decreasing in Indian markets with respect to 2022. But what is more important for us to understand here with our exam perspective is to know what are participatory notes. Participatory notes या P notes होते क्या हैं? Okay. Let me first read this and then I'll make you understand in detail what P notes are. Participatory notes या P1 notes are the financial instruments issued by a registered FII, which is foreign institutional investor, to an overseas investor who wishes to invest in Indian stock markets without registering themselves with the SEBI. I'm sure कुछ समझ नहीं आया होगा. Let me take you to this slide and try to make it easier for you to understand this. You need to consider a scenario first to understand what P notes is. Suppose this is the offshore investor. This is some person who is an offshore investor or the foreign investor. This is a company, some FII, or you can take an example of HSBC, which is a foreign institutional investor. And this is a company called X. Okay. This offshore investor, suppose he does not want to have all those paperwork or get registered with the SEBI or all those tax things and and to save his time, he want to buy the share of company X, but usko wo sab paperwork, time consumption वो सब नहीं चाहिए है. कोई shortcut रास्ता चाहिए है. He cannot directly go to the company and get registered with the SEBI and do all those paperworks and everything and then get the share in return. So what he will do, what this investor will do, he will give the money to some FII, to any FII, right? Foreign institutional investor, किसी को भी दे देगा. It will give some money. In return, these FII will give the receipt. Okay? Definitely after purchasing the shares, this FII will purchase the share from company X and in return give the receipt of those shares to this offshore investor, and this receipt precisely is known as P notes or the participatory notes. तो बिना कुछ किए हुए, just by giving money to the FIIs, this offshore investor will purchase the shares of company X, and this is what is the concept of participatory notes. In return, what he will get from the FII is a receipt, which we call as participatory note. I hope this is clear to you. You can also make the same diagram to for an easy illustration. Let me repeat this. Offshore investor hai, will give money to FII. That this FII will buy the shares of company X. जितने भी share ये foreign investor लेना चाहते हैं will buy those many shares and will give a receipt to the offshore investor, and that receipt is only the participatory note. It's just एक receipt type का ही होता है. If you have ever seen it in a in any of the images. So this is precisely the P notes or the participatory notes. But you see, there are many challenges related to it. इसलिए काफी ज़्यादा news में भी होता है. There are many challenges because it is because of its anonymous, because of its anonymous nature. बहुत anonymous nature का होता है, ज़्यादा पेपर वर्क नहीं होते, ज़्यादा बहुत anonymously चीज़ें यहाँ पर होती हैं. That is why it could also be channelized into money laundering thing. And this is the biggest challenge of these type of things, though our government is trying doing things to regulate it. But yes, what was important for us to understand here is to understand the concept of P notes. That what is P notes? I'm sure I'm able to put my point as to what P notes are. Let me summarize it. Let me repeat it for you. Recently, SEBI has said that participatory note ka investment decrease ho raha hai in our country, in our stock markets. And this was the data of January 2022. We've also read about participatory notes, wherein I've told you that there is an investor, FII, and a company जहाँ से वो foreign investor अपना share कुछ भी लेना चाहता है. Through using that platform of FIIs, he will purchase the share without getting it itself registered somewhere, right? But again, there are certain challenges also associated with this. That is why it keeps coming in the news also. Moving ahead with the next topic, which is predatory pricing. Predatory pricing, again on the same lines, we'll first understand why are we reading predatory pricing, why it was in news, and why is it important for our exam. Let me first tell you why is it important for our exam. UPSC has this habit of throwing, throwing one words in prelims, especially prelims paper mein, they keep throwing such words. So we must, whenever we come across such words जिनका हमें मतलब नहीं पता होता, especially in the economy section I'm talking about, if you don't know the meaning of such words and they are appearing in news time and again, you must note them down and you must try to understand the meaning. So predatory pricing was one of them. It could be asked in your prelims examination, so make sure that you pay attention here. What is the context here? The CCI, Competition Commission of India, will read about CCI also, don't worry. So CCI recently has dismissed the allegation of predatory pricing against a company, Shopee. There's an e-commerce company, आप सबने सुना होगा. There's an e-commerce online company, Shopee करके एक company है. Recently, there was an allegation against them कि वो predatory pricing use कर रहे हैं in the market, but CCI has dismissed this allegation that no, they are not doing any such thing. Now, there are two things for us to understand here. First, what is predatory pricing and what is this commission all about, और इसके क्या functions होते हैं. But first, we must understand what predatory pricing is. Then only we'll able to understand the context better. All right. Predatory pricing, in a very simple word, it is basically an illegal act wherein a company tries to lower its prices. Okay? So it is a legal act of setting prices low. Why and why do they do it? In attempt to eliminate the competition. मार्केट से दूसरी कंपनीज का जो कंपटीशन होता है उसको एलिमिनेट करने के लिए अ पर्टिकुलर कंपनी सेट द प्राइसेस ऑफ देयर प्रोडक्ट्स लो, एंड दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट प्रेडेटरी प्राइसिंग इज. हालांकि वो इनिशियली ही लो रखते हैं, वंस वी गेट हैबिचुअल टू देम दे इंक्रीजेस देयर प्राइसेस, बट दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग. वी आर हियर talking about here we are talking about predatory pricing, so we must stick to that only. So predatory pricing is, it is first of all, it is an illegal act that you can't do it. CCI, the Competition Commission of India, says that you cannot do this. Predatory pricing is illegal in India, wherein any company can't set prices to can't set their prices to such a lower level that it monopolize the entire market. Okay, so we can't really afford to make our markets vulnerable, or we cannot afford to give the entire monopoly to one company in the market. We need to have this fair trade, we need to have this fair competition in the market, and that's precisely the duty of Competition Commission of India. So keeping in mind the same thing, predatory pricing, Competition Commission of India said that Shopee is not doing this. Shopee, this e-commerce company, is not doing this. This was the recent judgment by Competition Commission of India. I hope predatory pricing is clear to you. Now, second thing we have to do in our today's lecture is CCI, Competition Commission of India. So, like I have told you, to ensure the fair price, to ensure a fair competition in the market, to promote the fairness in the market, Competition Commission of India came to our country. और कौन से एक्ट से आया था, all of that we will be reading here. So it came through the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969, which is also called as MRTP Act. In fact, हम इसको short form से ही ज़्यादा इसको जानते हैं, MRTP Act, which was repealed and then it was replaced by Competition Act 2022. So before Competition Act came, there was MRTP Act, which existed since 1969, but it got replaced and the provision changed to definitely to enhance or to enlarge the modern economy's thing. So modern economy ke perspective say we enlarge the scope of this particular act, but earlier it was known as MRTP Act of 1969. Then it got repealed to 2002. Then it also got amended in 2007. Actually, काफी बार amendments हो चुके हैं. The 2002 Act got amended in 2007, and finally after 2007, CCI, a body called CCI, got established in 2009. So this is the year you must remember. This is the year you all must remember, that it got established in 2009. Under which act? Under Competition Act of 2002. So I hope this is clear to you. CCI came from which act? So this has a legal backing to it, that it came through Competition Act of 2002. Okay? Finally, and it also got amended in 2017, and finally it got established. What got established? Competition Commission of India got established in 2009 to ensure the fair practices in our market. Right? I hope the work is also clear to you and the predatory pricing is also clear to you. All right, moving ahead. Moving ahead to our next topic, we will now be jumping to our next paper only altogether, which is environment and ecology, environment precisely, environment ecology, which belongs to GS paper 3. Again, I will try my best to cover all the current affairs of March first week of the environment section, so that you really don't need to study them from anywhere else. You can stick to this video, you can stick to this slide, you can revise these notes before your prelims, and you don't need to go anywhere else to do the environment section at least. I mean all the sections, but definitely since here we are talking about the environment, so environment. Okay, the first topic we have here is bomb cycling. Again, like I do my classes, कॉन्टेक्स्ट हम समझेंगे और फिर हम समझेंगे बॉम्ब साइक्लोन होता क्या है. कॉन्टेक्स्ट, लेट्स फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. सो अ बॉम्ब साइक्लोन basically is grazing north just west of Ireland and UK with a violent and hurricane winds and major wave. So these things keeps happening there, okay, at the northern part. But what's important for our exam is first to understand ki what is exactly the area jahan par ye hurricanes or these bomb cyclone kind of things happens. First we must know the area where it happens. Second, and more important, is that we understand what is bomb cyclone hota kya hai. But before we get into it, before we get into the explanation of bomb cyclone, we must understand what is a normal cyclone, normal tropical cyclone kya hota hai, wo hame pehle samajhna zaruri hai. Then only we'll be able to understand what bomb cyclone is all about. Okay, so I would like all of you to pay attention to this diagram to understand what cyclone is. So what happens when a cyclone is formed? We all know that the warm air here, it rises up. We know it rises up and it get mixed with the cool air. It rotates, and we know that rotation is counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. You must remember this fact. This rotation of the wind is counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. I repeat, the warm air rises, it get mixed with the cool air, the entire thing, the entire winds rotate, okay, counterclockwise. Okay, that's how this entire thing forms. But there are certain conditions, which are needed for a tropical cyclones formation. What are those conditions? Let me tell you what are those conditions. The first and the foremost condition is Coriolis force. We all must have heard of this force. We all must have read about this force in our NCRTs. So Coriolis force is needed for a tropical cyclone's formation. We know that it does not exist in the equator. Equator pe nahi hota. That is why we do not see generally we do not see the formation of tropical cyclones at the equator due to the absence of what? Coriolis force. So Coriolis force is the requirement, or is the condition for the formation of the tropical cyclone. The second could be we need a warm temperature of the ocean, which is around 27 degrees Celsius. We need this temperature to exist for the formation of the tropical cyclone. Third could be there should be a less vertical wind shear. वर्टिकल विंड शेयर जो होता है, ऊपर जो भी हवाएं चल रही होती हैं उनका वो कम होना चाहिए, वर्टिकल विंड शेयर, क्योंकि अगर ज़्यादा होगा so there won't be any cloud formation. So for the cloud formation, why do we need it? For the cloud formation, right? So this vertical wind shear should be less, else there won't be any cloud formation, then there won't be any precipitation or the cyclone. Fourth would be the humidity thing. This should be higher. Again, this also helps in the cloud formation. Cloud bane rahenge if this is higher. So these are some of the I'm not listing out everything about it, but these are some of the major things which are needed for the formation of the cloud. And then there is one eye. I'll just show you in the diagram. I'll just take you to that previous slide. But eye पे जो pressure होना चाहिए, और actually होता भी है, the pressure should be the low pressure, right? Okay. This is the eye. If you see here, just a second. This is the eye. ठीक है? यहाँ पर लो प्रेशर होता है, एंड दीज आर द विंड्स हियर जिसकी मैं बात कर रही थी, जिसका वर्टिकल विंड शेयर कम होना चाहिए, वरना क्लाउड्स की फॉर्मेशन यहाँ पर नहीं होगी. एंड दिस आई शुड हैव द लो प्रेशर, विच जनरली इट हैज़ लो प्रेशर ओनली. ठीक है, बट what is our topic here? Our topic is bomb cyclone. We have understood what cyclone is. We've understood all those things. But what about this bomb cyclone? What is this bomb thing here? This is actually technically called bombogenesis. But bomb cyclone kya hota hai? Is it we call any of the cyclone bomb cyclone, या किस बेसिस पे हम किसी भी साइक्लोन को बॉम्ब साइक्लोन बोलते हैं? इज इट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ कि इस आई पे कितना लो प्रेशर होता है? क्या ये है कि जितना लो प्रेशर होगा उस हिसाब से वी कैटेगराइज द साइक्लोन्स इनटू अ नॉर्मल साइक्लोन और अ बॉम्ब साइक्लोन? नो, नॉट एग्जैक्टली, प्रिसाइजली नॉट. देन व्हाट इज इट? जिसके बेसिस पर हम ये रेफर करते हैं या कैटेगराइज करते हैं दैट एनी पर्टिकुलर साइक्लोन इज अ बॉम्ब साइक्लोन? सो इट इज बेसिकली कि किस स्तर पे जो आई में प्रेशर है वो ड्रॉप होता है, उसके basis पे we decide whether a particular cyclone is a bomb cyclone or not. I repeat, जिस स्तर पे I में जो pressure होता है वो drop होता है, उसी के basis पे we decide whether a particular cyclone is a bomb cyclone or not. उसी के basis पे we name it as a bomb cyclone. And what is this pressure thing about? So a bomb cyclone happens when atmospheric pressure in the middle of the storm, when it drops to what, like I've told you कि temperature कितना, pressure कितना drop हो रहा है, उसके basis पे we decide. So when it drops to 24 millibars over 24 hours, ठीक है, we call it as bomb cyclone. This is the prerequisite condition, or if this will happen, we'll refer it as bomb cyclone. Let me repeat the entire topic. We've read about bomb cyclone. We've read about the context first. We've read what is the tropical cyclone, the entire formation of it, the prerequisites to it, to the formation of tropical cyclone, and then we have understood that on what basis we categorize these cyclones, or on what basis we came to this conclusion whether a particular cyclone is a bomb cyclone or not. Right? Moving ahead, IPCC report. Important topic pertaining to our environment ecology. UPSC time and again, I guess almost every year environment से काफ़ी सारे questions पूछ रहे हैं. So you must prepare your environment topics really carefully. All right, let's understand first that why is it in the news. It is in the news because 6th assessment की report recently आई है. IPCC की जो reports होती हैं, assessment reports, we call them assessment reports, and recently 6th report came up, and that is why it was in news. But first you must know कि 6th report थी तो 5 पहले reports क्या थी, और वो 5 reports का भी जो भी genesis है, what the exact origin, the genesis we must understand. Okay, so before getting into the recommendations or the studies or what this report was all about, what were the solutions and everything, let me first tell you about IPCC, and I would want all of you to take pen and paper and write after me, write as I write. I'm going to tell you the entire genesis of IPCC, all the reports. आज हम इसका पूरा बर्थ से शुरू कर लेंगे, आईपीसीसी को बहुत अच्छे से समझेंगे. ओके, सो वी आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट वी आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग आईपीसीसी. 1972, the whole story, the birth of it, the whole entire story starts with 1972. What happened in 1972? United Nations Environmental Program, a body called UNEP, ठीक है, it formed, and it was a purely environment related body. Before this is E here, okay? Before UNEP, there was no such body which were purely for environment. Yes, there was a body called WMO, which is World Meteorological Organization, but it was not purely for environment purposes. Okay? But in 1972, we paid attention to our environment because by that time our environment had started depleting and we had to do something about it, and that is why this body called UNEP formed, right? So WMO was there before UNEP, right? Now, what is IPCC? IPCC is the product of these two organizations only, UNEP and WMO, and it got formed in 1988, right? I hope this much is clear to you. Okay, but what is the purpose of this IPCC? IPCC इन दोनों ने मिलके बनाया क्यों? Actually, IPCC is not a scientific, is basically to do the assessments. ठीक है? In simple words, to do assessments. Assessments of environment. और द क्लाइमेट चेंज. सो बेसिकली कुछ असेसमेंट्स करने के लिए एक पर्टिकुलर बॉडी बनाई. माइंड यू, it is not a scientific body. I'm again repeating that UPSC can ask you this whether it is a scientific body or not. It is not a scientific body. Then how it presents it, or how it makes it report. Actually, what it does is it goes to different countries. Okay, ask the scientists of those particular countries to make report, to do all the ground level work, to make report and give to the IPCC. तो ये एक साइंटिफिक बॉडी नहीं है, ये सिर्फ उन साइंटिस्ट से, पर्टिकुलर कंट्रीज के साइंटिस्ट से रिपोर्ट्स कलेक्ट करती हैं एंड देन फाइनली मेक वन रिपोर्ट विच, ठीक है, फाइनली मेक रिपोर्ट, right, and give those reports to the government, and those reports only are called assessment report. Abhi tak there are total 6 assessment reports IPCC has presented, and today we are going to read about the 6th report, but we also should know that what were the 5 reports. Okay? To understand the 5 reports, I'm not going to tell you all the 5 reports because that would be too lengthy. I'm just going to tell you some of the important ones. The first AR is the assessment report. Okay, AR is the assessment report. Got presented in 1990, and the day they presented this assessment report, okay, on the basis of this assessment report, what was done? There was a meeting, or there was a convention which had taken place, which is famously known as Rio Earth Summit. Now you know how things are related. We started with UNEP. We also talked about WMO, जिनका product IPCC. IPCC के reports हैं, and in the first report, it talked about, it does not talked about, but on the basis of first report, we set up this, or we conducted this summit famously called as Rio Earth Summit of 1992. I hope this is making sense to you, all of you. Okay. Now, what were the outcomes? What were the outcomes of this report? What were the outcomes of this summit? What were the outcome of Rio Earth Summit? क्योंकि ये भी important है, इसीलिए I'm telling you the outcomes. ठीक है? Rio Earth Summit is really, really important for our exam, and also all the outcomes which I'm going to list are heavily important for our exam. The first outcome which came was Agenda 21. This was the first outcome which came during Rio Earth Summit of 1992. The second outcome was UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So now you know where this UNFCCC came from. It is one of the outcome of Rio Earth Summit, which happened in 1992, which was again was based on assessment report number 1 of 1990, right? UNFCCC हमें पता है, हम बहुत सारी COP meetings आजकल देखते हैं. Recently COP 26 was held, right, in Glasgow, UK में COP 26 was held. So the concept of COP originated from UNFCCC. Then the next outcome was UNCBD, which is related to the biological diversity. And the third one, the last one was United Nations, I think it was on desertification. Yeah, so it was on desertification. So these were some of the outcomes of Rio Earth Summit, which was the first assessment report. The second assessment report, what was the second assessment report? So what happened was the entire world community decided कि convention से अब कुछ नहीं होने वाला. A lot of things was not really, we were unable to achieve a lot of things pertaining to the environment. We were unable to curb things, curb the changes, curb the harmful changes. So we decided कि convention से कुछ चीजें नहीं हो रही हैं. We must come up with the protocols. And since we decided this, we came up with again a very famous protocol of called as Kyoto Protocol, 1997. Kyoto Protocol, which is a legally binding treaty, right? We all must have heard of. We are not going into the details of Kyoto Protocol, but because that's not our topic. Our topic is IPCC. But this was very important for all of you to understand here. Then I will not uh, go into the details of the third assessment report, because the third one also was related with the Kyoto Protocol only. Okay, we'll directly jump to the fifth one because that is important. For fifth one, in fifth one, what we did, we framed again a very important agreement called Paris Agreement. So the framing work was done. And now the sixth assessment report is being presented, which talks about, or which is related to the climate change, its risk, its vulnerabilities, and what the adaptations. That what are the risks of associated with the climate change, the vulnerabilities we and the environment is going to face, and definitely the adaptations or the solutions we must do. These are the 6 reports, right? I hope this is really helpful to you. Okay, a lot of times a lot of people get confused in this, get confused in what is UNEP, what is UNCBD, how all of this is interconnected, what is UNFCCC. I am sure this diagram is making sense to you. You must all make this diagram in the similar manner, ठीक है, ताकि आप जब भी revise करो, it will be very easier for you to understand it and to revise it and also to retain it. All right. So this was precisely the context and about IPCC report. Now, what were the recommendations? What were the recommendations or the what were the India specific study? तो इंडिया के लिए उन्होंने IPCC की जो भी रिपोर्ट आई है, इंडिया के लिए उन्होंने बताया है that India is one of the vulnerable hotspots. ठीक है, climate change की वजह से we are one of the vulnerable countries, and out of all the states we have Mumbai and Ahmedabad are at the highest risk. Mumbai is at the high risk of sea level rising. ठीक है, flooding वहाँ पर हम कुछ टाइम बाद देखने को मिल सकती है, and Ahmedabad में heat waves. There's a danger of heat waves. This is what the study or the IPCC report has predicted. Also, first time the IPCC, this is first time, okay? IPCC for the first time talked about the impact on the health. Before this, IPCC never talked about the impact on the health, but this is the first time IPCC is talking about the impact on the health. So what is it? It has found that climate change ki wajah se the impact on the health is also increasing, and there are certain diseases which are increasing because of the climate change. Like for example, there are many vector-borne diseases, there are many water-borne diseases, ठीक है, जैसे मलेरिया, डेंगू, ठीक है, बहुत सारे सब ट्रॉपिकल रीजन्स में, स्पेशली एशिया में, सब ट्रॉपिकल एशियन रीजन्स में वी सी अ लॉट ऑफ वाटर बॉर्न इन द वेक्टर बॉर्न डिजीजेस. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल डेंगू का भी सीजन भी आने वाला है. It's very unfortunate to say the season aane wala hai, but that's the reality. The second point it covered is that it has also increased the risk of certain circulatory and the respiratory diseases. Circulatory and the respiratory diseases, along with the diabetes and a lot of infectious diseases as well. As the temperature is rising, the diseases or the impact on our health is also going to be worst. Okay, to summarize this topic, we have read about IPCC report, all the 5 reports, the genesis of IPCC, we've read about UNEP, we've read about WMO, the entire genesis of IPCC reports, to report 2, the report number 6, and the India specific जो भी studies करी है IPCC report ने, because India specific study is always important for our exam. They can directly ask you question from the India specific studies. So Indian perspective, be it I mean whatever topic we are reading, the Indian perspective must be clear to you. Indian perspective जानना ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि अब हमारे लिए और हमारे एग्जाम के लिए दोनों के लिए ज़रूरी है, right? And the impact on health, which we talked about for the first time. Okay, all right. Up next we have Simba for the Asiatic Lions. So in this particular news, let me tell you that there are just few points you need to keep in mind for such type of news. बहुत ज़्यादा आपको पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Just 2-3 points you need to remember, and that's precisely the point why I put this news here for you to make you for you to understand that हमें बहुत सारे news को ना filter करके पढ़ना पड़ता है. We can't just read everything in newspapers and the current affairs or anywhere we're reading from. We can't read everything because that ways we won't be able to complete our syllabus anyways if we'll sit to read everything. So I'm going to tell you that what are few things you must remember if you encounter such type of news in future. Okay, context you must understand, or आपको पता होना चाहिए what the SIMBA is. So SIMBA stands for Software with Intelligence Marking Based Identification of Asiatic Lions. So now you know कि ये कोई तो technology है which is related with the lions. ठीक है? Yes. So Gujarat Forest Department has recently developed an artificial intelligence software or an AI-based photo identification software, which is specially designed to distinguish the patterns or the marks to identify the Asiatic lions individually. So this was developed by the Gujarat Forest Department based on their artificial intelligence, and it is basically related with the lion. So there are two things you must remember: what SIMBA is and what is it related with. UPSC might confuse you with by giving you the options as such as tigers or the elephants, or like for example, I remember there was a question in prelims called M stripes, and they asked you, this was a very simple question, and the very simple answers the options they gave you, they asked you what is it related with. Tigers are related hai ya, those four options they gave. So definitely this is related to tiger. So aise hi, you never know, they can ask you about SIMBA also. What is it related with? It is related with the lions. It is a photo identification software which is related with the lions. If we talk about the lions, okay, so if there is any species which is in news, you must know major 2-3 points about it. Like for example, the area that particular species is found in. Like for example, Asiatic lions are found in India. ठीक है, फाउंड इन इंडिया एट what all places? गुजरात में हमें गिर फॉरेस्ट में मिलेंगे, पनियन सेंचुरी में मिलेंगे, मिथिलिया सेंचुरी में और गिरनार सेंचुरी में हमें ये देखने को मिलेंगे. सो these are the places where it is found. So you must know the habitat of the, and this is not just limited to the Asiatic lions. Whatever species you are encountering in your news, you must know. And if those species are repeatedly mentioned in the news, you must make notes of them, about their habitat, कि कहाँ कहाँ वो मिलते हैं, about their conservation status, whether they falls under the critically endangered status or the endangered ones or the vulnerable ones. You must note their status as well. Like for example, lions fall under the endangered category. Okay? It falls under the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972 under the endangered category of IUCN Red List or Appendix CITES के Appendix 1 में ये fall करता है. So these are some of the factual points you must remember about any species being mentioned or being given in the news. All right, moving ahead. And our next subject is related with GS paper 2, that is international relation. So this is also again very important. You will definitely find questions, many questions in your prelims examination and also in the mains examination. So let us see what all are the current news which were related to international relations. First was Operation Ganga. What is Operation Ganga? I think this picture depicts everything. This defines everything, that our Prime Minister is helping Indians to, evacuate them from the Ukrainian and Russian war. So it is precisely this Operation Ganga is an evacuation mission to bring back all the Indians from the war zone, from the Ukraine. But what's important here, that we must know, or we must jot down all such kind of operations which are conducted especially by our government, and we listen them in news repeatedly. Like for example, आपके पास इन सब के नोट्स होने चाहिए ऑपरेशन गंगा के बारे में. यू मस्ट हैव एन आइडिया ऑफ इट. सो देयर इज नथिंग called understanding in such kind of topics. It just you must have an idea of these things. Okay, operation ganga was related with this was an evacuation mission jo humne Ukraine se kiya. So that is it you need to know, and that is all you need to remember. All right. You can say there was another mission called Samudra Setu in 2020. This also we did कोविड-19 के जो भी हमारे लोग थे जो फॉरेन में फंसे हुए थे. सो वी इवैक्यूएटेड देम, वी नॉट इवैक्यूएटेड देम, वी बॉट देम बैक इन आवर कंट्री. सो दिस वाज वन ऑफ द मिशन. देन अगेन there was a very famous mission we conducted in 2015 called Mission Rahat. So if you remember, there was a conflict going on between Yemen versus Houthi rebels. So to evacuate our people from Yemen, we had this mission called Mission Rahat in 2015. So there are certain missions जो कि काफ़ी important हो जाते हैं, काफ़ी news में भी रहते हैं. Just this slide I put just to tell you that it is important that you make note of, or you take note of such important missions which are in news. Nothing more than that you must remember about it. Up next we have India-Japan bilateral swap agreement, a very important news, a very important thing to be understood here. Okay, again, like I take my classes, I'll be making you understand what is the present context, why are we reading it, what is the recent developments regarding India and Japan relation. Then we'll also understand about the swap agreement, right? And yeah, so yeah, basically we'll understand about this currency swap and this swap agreement only. So the context is that India and Japan has recently signed a swap agreement. Okay, swap agreement हमने sign किया है. And but what is the swap agreement? ये swap agreement basically एक you know we can if two countries are exchanging or two countries are signing this kind of agreement, it would mean that they can exchange their local currency with you know their local currency, ठीक है, और dollars के उसमें they can exchange their local currency. To be precise, it says that India can acquire dollars from Japan in exchange of rupees, and Japan can do the same for yen, their local currency. Okay, this is about the swap agreement. We know that Japan is our crucial key partner, our crucial economic partner. We know that it's a very key partner, and we also know that these kind of swap agreements are very, very beneficial for the capital markets of both the countries. So they must happen, and especially for countries like Japan, we must keep doing these kind of swap agreements because they are really good partners in, especially if we talk about the foreign policy, right? Apart from that, we know that there's a lot of import export we do with Japan. Like for example, we export petroleum products, to them, and we import, and a lot of things, a lot of chemicals also we export to them. Okay, and we import especially electrical machinery, we import from them, right? Apart from that, the Japan is also our partner in many of the other things also. Like for example, Japan is a key partner, and it is also a member of Quad Group. ठीक है, Quad Group का भी एक member है, and the other members are Australia, US, और हम दो लोग तो हैं ही, Japan and India. So this is a group where Japan is a part of it. ठीक है, that is why it holds all the more important. This country holds all the more importance to us, especially to our country. Apart from this, there's a bilateral army exercise. Bilateral exercises are those exercises which are held between two countries, and multilateral, as the name indicates, are those exercises or those things which are happening between more than two countries, right? Dharma Guardian. This is what? This is an army bilateral exercise happening between both the countries, happening between India and Japan. So this is, so these are some of the fields we are involved with Japan, along apart from the export, import, and the business and the economy, economics. So these are some of the things we are also involved with Japan. And uh, uh, as you can see that there are a lot of common interest we and Japan share, especially if we talk about the foreign policy. In the foreign affairs, we share a lot of common interest, so we must keep doing these kind of agreements, and we must keep that relation. It will be really advantageous for both the countries. So that was all about the swap agreement. Up next we have Montrex Convention. I'm putting a star mark because this is important. Why? First, it is related with the the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. That is why it becomes important. And of course, this convention is also important from our history perspective, as well as definitely from our current perspective. We must understand. But before that, let me tell you, this Montrex is not that Montrex record of those records which are related with the Ramsar wetlands. So this is different. You must distinguish. You must know how to distinguish between the two. So this is Montrex Convention. This is different. I'll tell you what is it and how is it related with Turkey, and what is the role of Turkey here. Okay? Context ये है इसका कि recently Turkey is set to implement the Montrex Convention, which is an international convention on naval passage through two of its strategic straits, which would allow them to limit the movement of Russian warships between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Okay, I'm sure बहुत अच्छे से नहीं clear हुआ होगा. Okay, let me tell you. So this is an international convention, ठीक है, through two of its strategic straits which Turkey will implement. Now, what is strait? Strait is basically a narrow passage of water which connects the two big seas or two big water bodies, basically. Okay? So this is a narrow passage of water which connects the two water bodies, right? On the other hand, there is another term which I'd like to mention here, which is isthmus. There are two terms basically. One is strait, another is isthmus. Isthmus. You must understand both the words and the difference between them. So what is isthmus? Isthmus, on the contrary, on the contrast to the strait, isthmus is basically a narrow stripe or the strip of land connecting what? It connects what? Connecting two large land masses. So to distinguish between strait and isthmus, strait is something which connects two water bodies, and isthmus is something which connects the two large land masses. Right? I hope the difference is clear. Okay. So Turkey ने recently इस convention को implement किया है so that they can restrict the movement of Russian warships from these water bodies. Now the question arises, कि who gave this power to Turkey? Right, that Turkey can restrict the movement of the warship. Who gave this power? Okay, for that we need to understand that there was this convention which happened in 1936 by 10 countries. There was a convention which happened in 1936, wherein 10 countries came together and they decided that we give this power to Turkey, that it can decide on these routes. I will just tell you that what exactly those routes are. कि उन routes पे Turkey decide कर सकता है कि किसकी ship, especially war के time में, what all ships can pass through, which all countries ship can pass through, and which all countries can't, or even if the warship can pass through or not. Okay? So this convention gave the right to the Turkey on the sea route, and Turkey now has the power to decide whether the warship can pass through this route or not. Through which route? I'll just tell you. So, see the map here. You can see Black Sea, right? And this is the Mediterranean Sea, right? Okay. Now you will notice two straits here. Straits, आपको समझ आ गया straits क्या होते हैं? You will notice two straits here. First strait is Strait of Dardanelles, and this here, if you notice, this is the Strait of Bosphorus. ठीक है, स्ट्रेट ऑफ बॉस्फोरस, इन दोनों स्ट्रेट्स के बीच में देयर इज अ सी कॉल्ड सी ऑफ मार्मरा. सो बेसिकली डार्डनल स्ट्रेट एंड बॉस्फोरस स्ट्रेट connects what? It connects Mediterranean Sea with the Black Sea via what? Via the Sea of Marmara. I hope it is clear to you. I'll repeat it for you. The Strait of Dardanelles and Strait of Bosphorus connects the Mediterranean Sea with the Black Sea via the Sea of Marmara. And this is precisely the route where Turkey has this पावर कि इस रूट से अगर आपके वॉरशिप्स पास हो रहे हैं, रशिया के स्पेशली वॉरशिप्स अगर पास हो रहे हैं, तो टर्की हैज दिस पावर दैट इट कैन रिस्ट्रिक्ट those warships, and it can stop those warships, or it can send those warship back. So Turkey has this power, right? I hope the map is clear to you, right? I hope the strait and the entire water bodies are clear to you. Mind you, it is a very important एरिया. मेडिटेरेनियन सी के जो बॉर्डरिंग कंट्रीज हैं या ब्लैक सी के जो भी बॉर्डरिंग कंट्रीज हैं becomes very very important for our exam prelims में direct ask you Mediterranean is तो their favorite topic. Mediterranean की जो भी bounding countries होती हैं, they directly ask you the question, so you make sure that you list them out and make a trick to remember it. Same goes with the Black Sea. ठीक है, तो आप ये याद रखें. Okay, so we know that over 3 million barrels of oil. I'm trying to tell you the importance of this route. This route is very important for the economic perspective, as 3 million barrels of oil, about 3% of the daily global supply, mostly produced in Russia, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, pass through this route, and this is the data of every day. Every day यहाँ पर इतना जो ऑयल है वो पास थ्रू होता है. दिस टेल्स हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट दिस रूट इज एंड what power Turkey has actually. ठीक है, but there is a catch here. Okay, what is the catch here? That in this convention there is an exception. That exception is under Article 19 Part 4, and that exception says, this you have to remember, that exception says कि अगर किसी भी कंट्री की वॉरशिप या किसी भी कंट्री का जो वेसल है, इफ दैट वेसल हैज शिफ्टेड फ्रॉम इट्स बेस, it can return to its base. This is the exception. I'll tell you how. Suppose रशिया का कोई जो है बेस, नेवल बेस यहाँ पर है, ठीक है, बट इट्स ships have shifted here due to war or anything. यहाँ पर उसके ships present हैं, ठीक है, यहाँ पर उसके ships present हैं. So this exceptional clause gives this right to Russia that these ships can go back to Black Sea or to their base. Similarly, अगर base यहाँ पर present है और suppose जो vessels हैं वो यहाँ पर shift हो चुके हैं due to war or anything, they can also come back here. So this is a loophole which Russia can use to shift their vessels or keep the entire war situation ongoing. ठीक है, this is the loophole which Russia can use in its own favor. So मेरे को यही आपको ये exception आपको बताना था, that under article 19 clause 4 of this particular I want to tell you something that I'm not really sure whether it is 19 clause 4 or 9 clause 4. You please go and check it once if it is 19 clause 4 or 9 clause 9 no, 9 clause 4. But yes, this convention has an exception which Russia can use. right? To repeat the entire topic, we have read about the context. Turkey has imposed or implemented this Montrex Convention. We've understood what Montrex Convention is. We've read about the meaning of strait and isthmus. We've also understood the entire map and the two straits and the Sea of Marmara, which connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Black Sea. And we've also understood that exception which Russia can use to its favor. So Turkey, though Turkey is a NATO member, but Turkey also wants to keep its relationship good with Russia. So like us, Turkey also needs to keep a balancing, need to balance everything. Okay, need to keep itself in a balancing situation so that things could be um, done in favor of Turkey also, because every country sees its interest when it comes to foreign policy. No one is anybody's friend. It's just interest which matters at the end of the day, right? Up next, we have, yeah, International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice, again, context hum samjhenge, why it was in news, what is International Court of Justice, we'll understand. And I'll also like to tell you something here. When we will read International Court of Justice, we will also understand what ICJ is. Okay? International Court of Justice, sorry, International Criminal Court. What is International Criminal Court? Because these are two similar sounding terms, and students often get confused between ICJ and ICC. So I'll be clearing all the doubts in this slide, don't worry. Okay, the context is that recently Ukraine ने एक application file किया है against the Russia in the International Court of Justice, and that is why it was in news. War की वजह से they have filed this application against Russia. Now what is ICJ or International Court of Justice? As we know, 1945 में it got established, United Nations Charters के through ये established हुआ था, and it started working in 1946. It has total 15 judges. Since it is a court, it has 15 judges. The number of judges are 15, and the total term for which they are elected, the judges are elected, is 9. Okay, these are some of the factual points you can remember. And ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा पहले भी न्यूज़ में था, because if you remember Justice, just a second, Justice Dalveer Bhandari, इनकी वजह से ये काफ़ी न्यूज़ में भी रहा है कुछ सालों पहले. जस्टिस दलवीर भंडारी, India re-nominated him for to be the judge in the ICJ. So it was in news at that time also, so much in news in that time. So yes, this is also something which you can remember. Iska headquarter is in Hague, which is in Netherlands. Okay. Now let me tell you the difference between the two bodies. Halanki both the bodies have their headquarters at the same place, which is in Hague, Netherlands. And there's one point I'd like to mention here before we get into the distinction of them. ICJ, which is International Court of Justice, India is a member to it. India is a member to it, whereas we are not the member of ICC, that is Criminal Court. So this is the major distinction pertaining to India. Okay, we have understood the year of establishment. It was 1946, whereas it got established later in 2002. ICC I'm talking about. Now, what is the relationship it shares with UN? It is an official court of UN. UN का official court है, whereas that is not an official court. That is independent of it. Okay? So it is independent. If we talk about the location, I've already told you, दोनों के headquarters is located in the Hague, which is in Netherlands. Up next, we have what kind of cases they handle. And this is important to understand कि कौन से किस तरीके के cases दोनों handle करते हैं. ICJ handles if there is some problem between the two parties or between the two countries or many countries, it handles those cases, or it also gives you the advisory opinions. Okay? On the other hand, ICC does not work with, or it does not handle the cases pertaining to the countries or the conflicts between the two countries. Rather, they handle the cases which are related to the war crimes, to the genocides, the individual cases I'm talking about, right? The criminal prosecution of individual is being handled by ICC and not ICJ. Indian court, International Court of Justice. What is the subject matter? This is precisely the subject matter that they conduct or they handle things between the two countries, whereas they, and also if it is related with some boundary issue, countries के बीच में बहुत सारे boundary issue रहते हैं, maritime disputes रहते हैं, right, बहुत सारे treaty के violations अगर हो रहे हैं between two countries or many countries, ICJ handle those type of cases, whereas ICC handles the cases which are related to the genocides or the crime against humanity. Okay, so these were the, and if we talk about the funding, UN funding यहाँ पर होती है, UN funds it, and here it is voluntary. Okay, so these were some of the differences. All right, to summarize the entire topic, Ukraine has filed the application against Russia because of the war, the ongoing war. Okay, ICJ के बारे में हमने पढ़ा, जहाँ पर we read कि there are 50 number of judges. The term we also read that India is a part of it, whereas we are not a part of ICC. Right, Dalveer Bhandari की वजह से ICJ was in news a few years ago. Okay, all right. Moving on to our next paper, which is GS paper 3, Science and Technology. Again, a very important topic. You can definitely expect questions from this part as well, this paper as well. So without wasting any time, let's just start it. The first topic is International Monsoon Project Office. So what our government is trying to do, it is trying to make India, or make our country, a global hub. For what? For monsoon research. And in order to achieve the same, Union Minister of Science and Technology has launched IMPO, that is International Monsoon Project Office. What is important for you to learn here is that who has launched it. So Union Minister of Science and Tech has launched it. This is the factual point you need to learn. Apart from that, you also need to learn that it will be hosted at Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, that is IITM Pune, which is in Pune, which is an institution which comes under which ministry? It comes under Ministry of Earth Sciences. ये आपको याद रखना है. The ministries are always important. बहुत बारी ऐसा होता है that they directly ask you that this particular thing falls under which ministry. So you must remember this falls under Ministry of Earths and Sciences, Government of India. Right? Nothing more than this you need to remember from this topic. Just few factual points and the object as to why have we launched it, why our government has launched it. Moving ahead with our next topic, INS Vishakhapatnam. So on the same lines, we'll be understanding what is the context, and then we'll come to the Vishakhapatnam class. We'll read about it, what Vishakhapatnam class is, and why is it important, and why is it in news, और हमने अभी क्या technology upgradations करे हैं in Vishakhapatnam class, right? So what is the context? INS Vishakhapatnam is the leadership of P5B class of guided missile stealth destroyers. We'll understand why have we used destroyers, and was commissioned on 21st November 2021. Okay, why have we used the word destroyers here? As you can see in the picture, this picture is depicting the destroyer class, and these are the frigates. You all must have heard of the frigates. These are the frigates, and this is the destroyer. There's a clear-cut distinction. As you can see, prima facie pe hi aapko lag raha hai that this is the larger one, these are the smaller ones. So yes, this is the larger ones, has different roles. Frigates has different roles. The frigates are basically used in small scale wars. अगर small scale war या small scale के जो भी चीज़ें होती हैं, we use frigates there. Frigates are faster. than the destroyer. So you don't, uh, it's not that frigates are not really important, or destroyer are better or something. No, they have different uses. That just, I put this image to make you understand that there's a difference between a frigate and a destroyer. This one is bigger, this one is used for the bigger purposes, for a bigger war, for the, for the final war, for the last attempt, you can say. So this is destroyer. Okay, we'll also understand that what are the unique features we have put in this, and what are the benefits. Okay, about Vishakhapatnam class ships, so they are follow on of what? Kolkata class destroyers P50A, ये P15A, ये इसी के follow on का एक प्रोडक्ट है, ठीक है, जो कि हमने लास्ट डिकेड जो कमीशन हुआ था. Now, why is it important, or what are the unique or the different or the features which are beneficial to us when we talk about P15B ships, जो हमने अभी जिसके बारे में हम पढ़ रहे हैं. So basically they have this most they are technologically advanced, technologically upgraded है ये. So this is one point which should be noticed. This is one of the features which should be pointed out. Second is, these ships are equipped with BrahMos supersonic cruise missile. BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, we know, is the fastest cruise missile of the world, and this is a joint, we know that this is a joint venture between Russia and India, and like I've told you, is the fastest cruise missile in the world. Okay, so they are also equipped with BrahMos missile. यहाँ पर this is equipped with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, and along with it a long range surface to air missiles. Okay, and not just that, they will also have a indigenous torpedo tube launchers. Torpedo की facilities भी यहाँ पर होंगी, तो torpedo tube launchers भी इसमें inbuilt hoga. So these are some of the features of INS Vishakhapatnam. All right, that was all about it. Up next we have Artemis mission, Artemis program. Okay, understand the context of it, understand why are we reading it, understand why it was in news. It was in news क्योंकि Artemis जो है, they are planning to launch one of their upcoming missions, and that was, और ये news में काफ़ी बार रहता है, अभी आगे भी आपको in the entire year you will keep hearing about this mission. So make sure that you understand it here only very properly, ताकि आप आगे जब भी whenever you see it in the news, you don't face any problem understanding it. Okay, static part समझना is very important for us to understand the current portion. We cannot just directly jump into the current part of anything. We must understand the static portion first. Then only we'll be able to understand a bit of current affairs. Else it will be very difficult for us to connect with the current part. ठीक है, हम सिर्फ पढ़ लेंगे, कुछ समझ नहीं आएगा, which is of no use. Okay, so the Artemis stands for acceleration, reconnection, turbulence, and electrodynamics of moon's interaction with the sun. Okay, यहाँ पर what is the most important word to be remembered here is moon. All right, ये मून के मैग्नेटिक फील्ड को या मून के बारे में स्टडी करने के लिए दिस मिशन इज ऑल अबाउट. ओके, ठीक है, बट what is then Themis? What is this Themis to Artemis? So I'll tell you, and UPSC, I'll tell you, UPSC has also asked question about Themis. Themis पे UPSC question पूछ चुका है. I guess it was in 2008 when UPSC asked a question in prelims about Themis, that what is Themis is all about. Themis mission किस चीज़ के बारे में है? So in 2008 UPSC asked this question. ठीक है, because Themis this program launched in 2007, तो 8 में UPSC ने पूछ लिया था. So Themis, let me first tell you about Themis. Themis basically जो northern poles पे, northern hemisphere पे जो हम colorful lights हमें जो दिखती हैं, it was basically to study those lights. So it was about colorful northern lights. Colorful northern lights, yeah. It was about colorful northern lights. But why have I written Themis to Artemis? Is it that there is some connection between Themis and Artemis? Yes, there is a connection between the two missions. So this Themis, it got launched in 2007. ठीक है। 2007 में लॉन्च किया, 2010 तक ये 2010 तक 2010 तक ये चला. व्हाट वाज देयर इन थेमिस? दिस पिक्चर इज ऑफ थेमिस. ठीक है, दिस इज थेमिस मिशन. As you can see, there are 5 satellites in this picture. Number 1, uh, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So what NASA did, these are the mission of NASA, by the way. Okay. So what NASA did, they put up 5 satellites around the Earth. As you can see, this is the Earth, right? And as you can see, these are those lights I was talking about on the northern side of the Earth. Okay. So to understand the entire phenomena behind these lights, Themis mission was launched. Okay. But ये 2010 तक ही चला. Then what NASA scientists thought, after 2010 they wanted to study moon also. They wanted to study the magnetic field and a lot more about moon. So what they did, they came up with this idea that using these satellites which we used in Themis mission, which are already there in the space, we can use two of the satellites. We can use two of the satellites we used in Themis mission, of course, recycle them, rebuild them a little, and then send the two of the satellites to the moon and study the moon. That is why this is Themis to Artemis. की जो 5 satellites हमने Themis में use करी थी, we took 2 satellites from them, we recycled those satellites and we sent these 2 satellites to moon and we named it as Artemis. Artemis and Themis, these words have been taken from the Greek mythology, right? So I hope the connection between Themis and Artemis is clear to you now. Okay. But what is the specific objective of Artemis? This is basically to find and use water and other critical resources needed for a long-term exploration, and also to investigate the moon's mystery in the magnetic field and everything. So yes, that is why I have said this moon word is important for us to remember here. Okay, let me summarize this topic for you. First of all, the full form of this, it is related to moon. The entire journey from Themis to Artemis, we have understood. 2008 to 2022, we have understood. ठीक है, Themis पूछा गया है, हो सकता है UPSC can ask you about the mission Artemis also, because they have asked about Themis. So there's a high chance that they can, in this prelims only, they can ask you about Artemis also. Okay? I have told you through this, I have made you understand through this picture that how these 5 satellites, out of these 5 satellites, how they used the 2 of them, recycled them and sent it to the moon to study and investigate the moon. All right. So that was all about it. Up next we have GS paper 1, Art and Culture. Current affairs of March first week pertaining to the art and culture domain. Okay. The first and the foremost current affair is Avalokiteshvara Padampani. अच्छा, ये है क्या और why it was in news? Okay. सबसे पहले तो Buddhism, Jainism. These are the 2 topics which are highly important in art and culture for our examination perspective. So make sure that you at no cost try to even try to leave these topics. ठीक है, art and culture में हम बहुत सारे topics छोड़ देते हैं, but at least do those topics which are important. And Buddhism and Jainism are one of them, right? Okay, what is the context? So एक मूर्ति थी, the idol of Lokiteshvara Padampani. It went missing some years ago and अभी उसको hand over कर दिया गया है Indian consulate को मिलान में, right? That is why it was in news. But for us, what is important is to understand what Avalokiteshvara Padampani is. So इसका इस वर्ड का बेसिकली मतलब होता है वन हु कैन सी ऑल. ठीक है, विच रिप्रेजेंट द इनफाइनाइट कंपैशन एंड मर्सी. इट इज बेसिकली अ पार्ट ऑफ Bodhisattva. ठीक है, Bodhisattva is what? Is someone who had the compassion within himself or herself and who is able to make another person smile and help someone who suffer less. ठीक है, इसके basically Bodhisattva के it was actually there were 108 avatars and out of them Padampani was one of them. ठीक है, one of the avatars. Padampani का मतलब यही होता है who has a lotus in his hand. If you can see in this picture, Padampani means who has a lotus in his hand. This is what Padampani is. ठीक है, so that was about this topic. Make sure that you prepare Buddhism, Jainism really deeply and really well. Up next we have Konark Temple. Every now and then this temple is in news. This temple is also called as Black Pagoda. On the other hand, Jagannath Temple is known as White Pagoda. If there is a black pagoda, there must be a white pagoda. So Jagannath Temple is known as White Pagoda. Okay? Okay. Because of how it looks. Okay. So this temple is basically dedicated to sun god. और ये है कहाँ पर? We know this. Okay? That's very easy. Okay. What is important for our examination perspective is that who built this. So this was built by Narasimham Devavarma, one of the eastern of which dynasty? The dynasties are important. The kings are definitely important. The dynasties are also important. Of Ganga dynasty in the 13th century. Right? It is of Kalinga style architecture. Kalinga style architecture, जो कि एक Nagara style temple architecture का part है. We know that temple architecture जब हम पढ़ते हैं, so we read these two famously famous these temple architecture. One is Nagara, one is what? Dravida. There's also a third one जो कि दोनों का mix होता है. We call it Vesaram. ठीक है? So yeah, Nagara has you can say they have multiple shikhara. Multiple shikhars होते हैं. Dravida में on the other hand you will find only one shikhar. You will also find I'm writing it here. You will also find Dwarpalas at the entrance of Dravida style temple architecture, right? And this is the mixture of both the Nagara style and the Dravida style. Okay? More about Konark Temple, it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. All the UNESCO World Heritage Sites become all the more important. एक तो temple architecture in art and culture is important. Okay, is itself important. But if it is a part of UNESCO World Heritage Site, it makes it all the more important for us for our exam. Right? So it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. जो कि it got recognition in 1984. And like I have told you, it got the recognition of Black Pagoda, whereas Jagannath Temple is known as the White Pagoda. And what Odisha is planning to do, where is it situated, we know. And what the Odisha, what the state is planning to do, it is planning to make this temple 100% solar. They're planning to make this Konark Temple and the town as 100% solar town. So they're planning to make this temple as well as the town the 100% solar town. That is why it was in news. That was that was all about it. That was all about the March 1st week current affair. We have covered all the GS papers. I hope I'm able to put all of my points, and I hope it will help you in your preparation. Thank you so much.